easiest time to make a decision is the moment you know that decision's right. Every minute after that, it's actually going to be harder to make the decision.
If you could give one piece of advice to anybody that's struggling right now, that's looking for their comeback, from Tyler Jorgenson's mouth, what is that?
Gratitude. Without a question.
You are now locked in for the Comeback Kings podcast. Let's go!
Don't forget, the conversation continues inside the CBK mobile app. This is the premier community for content, conversations, and resources, all built to help our Kings get back on track. Inside the app, you'll get exclusive after-show clips, direct access to podcast guests, and insider interviews with industry experts on everything from health and wealth to relationships and spirituality. You'll also unlock member-only deals designed for the needs of real men, plus tools and training to fuel your personal comeback. Come network with fellow Kings from around the world and be a part of the global movement, helping men rise from setbacks and rebuild a life that they're proud of, with purpose, strength, and community. Join the movement now. Download the free Comeback Kings mobile app at cbknetwork.com. All right, fellas, welcome in. It's time for another episode of the podcast. I'm very, very excited for this one here today. I've got my good buddy Tyler Jorgenson with us today. What's going on, Tyler? How are you? Welcome to the show.
I'm doing great, and I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, man, we've been talking about doing this for, a long time now, right?
Yeah, been a minute.
It's time to finally get after it, man. Well, what I wanted to do, obviously I know you, but I certainly want to make sure that we can make sure everybody else gets to know you, what you've got going on right now. So just do what you will, man. Tell us what's Tyler up to right now, what you got going on, how are you winning in life? Tell us some good stuff.
Yeah, some good stuff. We are in season 15 of my ABC News radio show, Biz Ninja Entrepreneur Radio. That's been a ton of fun interviewing entrepreneurs from all around the world for the past 15 years. I have a media production company called Burn Media, where we help other entrepreneurs and founders launch their show and become the authority in their niche. I've got, I do some really cool stuff with the Rich Dad Company in terms of running their media and running their paid ads. And overall, man, I'm just really focused on building a lifestyle that I love and being able to have as much freedom as possible.
I love that, man. So, okay, first off, where are you? You're in Cali, right?
I'm in Southern California.
Yes, okay, Southern California. And so you've got Burn Media, you've got the Rich Dad stuff that you've got going on. Which one of those came first? Was it Rich Dad first?
Yeah, so I've had an agency for years. I've done a bunch of stuff in e-commerce and supplement brands and all kinds of different businesses over the years. And so years ago, I was connected with the Rich Dad Company. They weren't selling any of their own products. Everything was just being sold wholesale. So we helped them. We built out their direct to consumer division, launched their website. And then later on, they came back again and we started running all their ads. And then they came back again and we started running, creating all their short form content. And then they came back again and asked me to be the Rich Dad expert on business and entrepreneurship. And so I have a show on their YouTube channel featuring all that stuff.
Nice. And so since you won't say it, I'll tell everybody. I've known Tyler for years now, and this man is the authority when it comes to lead generation and all things like that. So we met a long time ago at an event, and we just kind of kept in touch. So definitely want to give you your shout out for that. So now the Rich Dad stuff leads into Burn Media, and you're helping people like us.
That's right. Yeah. So I launched my shows a really long time ago, and I realized that a ton of entrepreneurs and founders, they become really successful in their business without ever really taking care of it and building their personal brand. And almost all of them hit a point in their career where they realize they need to step into the spotlight, whether they feel the call to contribution and like they feel the need to do it, like from a service perspective, or they just feel hidden and they're tired of people with less talent and less, credibility getting the opportunities. So for whatever reason, they're feeling like it's time for them to step into the spotlight. So we help founders and doctors and people like that with extreme credibility and experience step into the spotlight and become the owner and authority in their niche.
That's awesome, man. It is much needed. And I tell you, there's nothing worse than feeling like somebody else has got something and you know you're better than them, but you just don't have the resources or whatever. So I'm glad that you've settled in on this niche and you're crushing it, right? I mean, you guys are having a lot of success.
Yeah, we started in beta about a year ago with just a few people, and just testing it out because, we're going to go that through the show, but I was going through a difficult time and going through a divorce. And so I needed to make some money and get some things going, but I didn't have the energy yet to go full speed. So we started with about a year in beta, and then just recently, a couple months ago, started leaning into growth, made some really cool hires into my, and operators in the business. Because for me, I need good people doing the day-to-day so I can focus on the higher visionary type work. So made some really great hires recently and leaning really heavily into growth.
So what's next?
So the goal is hit my goals on this one, create true operational freedom where I'm not in the day-to-day of the business. I'm focusing on just creating content and top level opportunities. And then I've got some really cool projects that I want to get launching. I'm a starter by nature. I'm heavy in ideation, coming up with the next thing. And that's what fuels me is ideation and connection. And so I've got a fund that we're putting together to launch some experiential boutique hotels. I've got some e-commerce projects that we're going to be relaunching and taking to market. And so I just want to continue to build really cool things while still only doing the parts of the business that I love, where I thrive.
And bringing in that good old passive income for the lifestyle, huh?
I've never found true passive income, but, income where I'm only doing the things I love, right? To me, that's as close to passive as I need to be. I don't mind work. I love work. I just only want to do the work I enjoy.
Don't we all, right? Don't we all? Yeah. If I could just do the podcast all day long, I would do that, man. This is what's fun for me. So I'm glad that you found that niche. And so obviously we talked about a lot of these things, just knowing each other in our personal worlds, but I noticed that you were talking to me a little bit about being in a movie. Do you want to tell us about this at all? Or is this top secret?
No, it's not top secret. It's just one of those things where, when people are asking for like interesting tidbits or two truths and a lie, kind of those kind of games. Back in, I think it was 1996 or 97, the movie Contact with Jodie Foster and Matthew McConaughey was filming near my high school. And we ended up being able to go be extras on it for 3 days, but we actually turned it into a fundraiser. We were able to recruit other students to go, but everything they got paid, we got. And so it paid for a trip that we were doing for one of our high school groups. And so we were able to be in a movie, not have to go to school for a few days, get paid, and have a vacation. It was like,
so you're like epic. A movie star, basically.
I have been, I joke that I have 2 IMDb entries. I was also on the first season of Wipeout.
Oh, that's when you, when they swing things at you and you have to.
Yeah, that weird obstacle course game. Yeah, I had no idea what it was. And I was like, because it was the first season, so there was no previews or trailers or anything out. And we're showing up and only a couple of us ended up in the hospital. So it wasn't too bad.
I would have been in the hospital for sure. Like day
it was
one.
Rough.
I wouldn't have made it. So, okay. Yeah. So you've been, and that's the all right guy, right? Matthew.
Yeah. That's Matt.
All right.
You can see me for about 2 or 3 frames of the movie. It's not a significant extra role, but I was there and it was fun.
I have to check that movie out. I don't know if I've ever seen that one.
It's a good movie. It's about like aliens and sci-fi stuff, but it's good. It's a good movie.
Nice. So were you getting eaten or what was the?
I was just standing there. No, the premise is, Jodie Foster's character comes in, makes contact with, alien life. And then, so when she's coming back into her like lab the next day, there's tons of people out and like, just being what humans do. And so we were just standing around and being extras.
That's dope, man.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a fun experience.
And you're in the Guinness Book of World Records as well.
Yeah, that was, I have this thing where I just am very open to opportunity. So people know that if something funny or weird or crazy is happening, like give me a call. Like I'll jump on a plane and, I'll fly to Iowa in the middle, to go to the Field of Dreams game or whatever. So people just know that. that I'll say yes. And so the ClickFunnels team was doing a launch of a commercial. They were trying to get it to go viral. So they rented out Boise State Stadium and got the Guinness Book of World Record guys to show up and did we played the largest game of bubble soccer. It's that like out on the Smurf turf at Boise State. We were all in those big bubbles and we had to play a full 60-minute game of soccer. And so it was fun.
Wait, you're talking about the thing where you get inside the bubble, right? And you just,
yep.
They're just,
you're just running, checking everyone. And they had a ton of like Instagram influencers and they had all these people. Gary Vee spoke right before it. And so it was a fun day, but it was just silly.
Well, you're enjoying life, man. I need more of that. Let me find a bubble like that I can just jump inside. But that feels a little too claustrophobic for me. I don't know if I could handle that.
Well, they're clear. I mean, they are transparent, so you can just take it off, run to the sideline and take it off if you need to. But
I couldn't do it, man. I couldn't do it, but I'm glad that you did it. So on this show, Tyler, and we've talked about this, but the entire purpose of this show is we're all going through stuff in life, right? And it's not so much what we're going through, but it's how we bounce back from it. That's why we kind of put this together, the Comeback Kings, right? It's not your setback, it's the comeback. And you've got a lot of success going on right now, right? And I think what happens a lot of times when people listen to shows like this, they hear all this awesome stuff about people that are doing well and they're successful, they got it all together financially. It's not always that way, right? Behind the scenes and certainly, you know, people that have had success have had some setbacks. And so I was hoping that you would be open enough to kind of share with us some of what you've gone through, maybe to inspire somebody else that might be, you know, heading down a similar path, because I know you've got a story to share. So what we'll do, if you don't mind, is I want to just take a quick break and then we'll come right back after this and we'll jump into that. All right, fellas, listen up. I'm about to let you in on a little secret that can save you thousands of dollars every single year. Why keep spending big money every month just to watch your favorite shows and sports, especially when there's Renegade TV? I used to pay monthly for YouTube TV, Prime, Netflix, Disney Plus, and because I couldn't catch my favorite teams locally, I had to drop even more money on NFL Sunday Ticket, NBA League Pass, MLB TV. It was sickening. Then I found Renegade TV. One device, one low price, and you get live access to every major sports league, NFL, NBA, MLB, UFC, you name it, you got it. You also get all the newest releases and thousands of movies and shows on demand. No subscriptions, no monthly fees, no hidden fees. Just one setup and you're set. So now I'm saving hundreds of dollars every month and easily thousands every single year. So go to streamrenegadetv.com and use code CBK2025 to save $50 at checkout. All right, we're back with Tyler Jorgenson, and we've already talked about some of the awesome stuff that he's got going on in life. But what we really want to get to is the stuff that we don't talk about a lot of, and that is the setbacks. And so I'll just kind of give the floor to you. You know, talk to us about a time in your life where you feel like maybe you weren't at your best or you really needed some help.
Sure. You said it really well right before the break that it's easy to look at other people and think, man, they've got it all together. But the longer I live and the more people I talk to and the more personal experiences I go through, the more I realize that everyone is battling something. And many of the people who seem to be thriving financially, maybe one, they may not be. And two, a lot of them went through a lot of loss to get there. And I've just found that to be true everywhere. That's the same in relationships, it's the same in everything else. Over the past, really 15 years, it seems like I've really gone through a slow but radical transformation. And so every part of who I was has changed. Yeah, I mean, it started for me back around when the Great Recession hit, and I was, really heavy into real estate, and I had a business partnership, and I was super religious. And when I lost everything in the recession. I mean, I was a young guy and heavily invested in real estate. I had 17 properties when the market crashed, and it took out everything all but two. Mm-hmm. I lost a ton of friends. I lost a ton of money. I ended up having to file bankruptcy. And it was a really hard thing for me to do because I had been told that was the cowardly way to deal with things. So I delayed filing for a long time.
Oh, the bankruptcy?
Yeah. And it actually made it worse because I was trying to take, new business and new opportunities, and not, and any money I made, I was paying people back while not taking care of myself. And, I had to learn that business is business. You've got to do, these things are here to protect us so that we can make moves.
Yeah.
So I had some good advice from somebody at one point where he's just like, you got to quit hanging on to the past. You got to realize that happened to everyone. The recession didn't just impact you. It happened to everybody. And so you got to set a line in the sand and move forward. And it allowed me to like kind of let go. And I still feel bad about some of the things that happened during that time, right? I want everyone who's ever around me to win. But at the same time, I had to start moving forward. And so I was able to build a new business. I built a supplement brand where I didn't exist in the business. I was able to just focus on creation. I had like a fake name running it just because I was protecting my ego, and I was, still hurting from the past. But we turned it into a 7-figure business. We ran it international and wholesale, retail, and direct to consumer, and took that, and it allowed me to raise my kids with a lot of freedom. We got to travel a ton. We got to do a ton of amazing things. And as that business evolved and changed, and I got into other businesses, then it became a time to focus on me. It's like I got my finances right now. So I went back to college and I got my MBA, and then I went back, started getting into fitness and got healthy, and just more and more of me kept evolving. That kind of culminated a few years ago in starting to go through a divorce that took a long time. And it was a challenging thing because for me, I didn't want to admit that the relationship wasn't good, right? Because I felt like that would take away from all of the memories and all the positive things of it. Because, even a bad relationship has good components.
Yeah.
But I wasn't my best self, and I wasn't becoming my best. And I was feeling like I never would be able to if I didn't make some changes. And so it was probably the hardest thing I've ever done and had to go through. And I didn't handle it all perfectly or with grace. It was a challenging time, but I've worked hard since then to, really focus on being a good dad and being a good co-parent, and moving into this next stage with as much grace as possible, while recognizing that the past is the past.
That's a tough realization, man. Obviously, part of my story. I'm going through the same thing, right? But it is hard, and it's something that you almost feel like embarrassed to talk about because you feel like you should have succeeded in it. Just the same way it's a business or anything else like that. So when you realized that you just needed to exit that, what was your mindset like at that point in time?
I was in a really rough state overall. We'd gone through a series of just like, we lost a lot of people close to us in a very short amount of time. And so I was already really fragile, right? So I wasn't coming from a place of strength in making those decisions. But there was a friend of mine once said that the easiest time to make a decision is the moment that decision's right. Every minute after that, it's actually going to be harder to make the decision. And so I think deep down, I'd known for a while, but I wasn't ready, and I didn't have the tools and the strength and the support network to be able to make some of these hard moves and frankly have the conversations that could have either led a different direction or just made it happen sooner. But again, part of it is recognizing it's not about what you could have done or what you should have done differently. It's about just recognizing where you are now and what's the next best conversation or next hard conversation you need to have or next thing you need to do, because we can always look back and say what we could have done differently. And I think part of being a comeback king, right, is learning from the past, but not dwelling on the past.
Yeah, absolutely. If you don't want to answer, that's fine. But I know you have kids. So obviously we talk a lot about how it impacts us, but for sure impacts them as well. How did they take it?
So luckily my kids were all a little bit older. They were all at least in their teens. And I don't know if that actually makes it easier, but it at least allowed conversations to be had. It wasn't a fast or clean process. And so I think the beginning stage was rough on everybody. I just decided I can only focus on what I can control. I can't handle what anybody else chooses to say or do during that process. And definitely felt a strain with a couple of I have 4 kids. And so with 2 of them, I felt the strain pretty significant. One of my kids, I'm intentionally not saying which kid or things, just because I respect their privacy. But in general, one of my kids and I got really close through that, and we were able to grow closer. And two of them, we really struggled. But I feel like over the last 6 months, it's been those moments of restoration are coming. It's hard because it was, kind of like the last couple of years of my kids' childhoods. And so now I've got 3 adult kids, and my youngest is getting older. But again, I can only focus on what I can control and what the next steps are. So I just work really hard to be present for them as much as I can.
God, man, I'm sorry that you've had to go through that, but like you said, it's got to happen. And once you kind of, are okay with that, then you can focus on getting better and repairing those relationships and moving forward. So how did you go about doing that?
Yeah, it's been tough. So one, I just always try to stay open. I try to let my kids talk. I've never been a helicopter parent, right? But I parent through proximity. I try not to force conversations. I try to let conversations happen.
Yeah.
That has become tough through divorce because I don't have the same frequency of proximity. And so it's been really challenging. So I've been trying to work really hard on creating more time, whether that's, tonight's Thursday. I do dinners at my house every Thursday night, and tell them not only bring your kid, like my kids should come, but also bring a friend, bring anyone else you want to have. Just try to make my house a very welcoming place, and just letting my kids know, like, it's I'm going to be here forever, right? Like I'm still dad, no matter with things changing. I'm still here. However you need me to be here. And so I think for me, it was just about letting them have the space and the time they need to process, even if it hurts, because it hurt. It hurt to have that, feel that absence and feel that space. But I knew it just was, forcing it to change wasn't going to make it better. Just giving it the space to heal.
That's good, man. That's very wise. You learned this all on your own?
Yeah, just through a lot of pain. But no, I'm a big believer of having coaches, right? And so
yeah.
I've got a mindset coach, I got a therapist, I've got, I had to build a support network because, when a lot of this kind of stuff happens, a lot of times your support network fractures. People take alliances. And I felt like I didn't have many people that kind of stayed on my side. And so I had to actively build that. And a lot of it was just the nature of who I am in general. I'm a diplomat and a peacekeeper by just who I've been my entire life. I've broken up fights. I've never been in a fight, right? Like, so it's just who I am, but a lot of practice and checking in with people to make sure I'm not being too patient, right? I'm not being just walked on, but I'm being strategically patient.
All right, Kings, if you're hearing this, there's still time to lock in your spot for the VIP Comeback Experience Sweepstakes. If you hadn't heard, the Comeback Kings movement is on a mission, and that mission is to raise the standard of men worldwide, helping you rise from adversity, rebuild with purpose, and reign with strength through emotional intelligence, healing, and growth. And now's your chance to be a part of it. Head over to cbknetwork.com and enter for a shot at the ultimate VIP comeback experience. Airfare and hotel for 2 to any event, a CBK merchant style package, a podcast spotlight, Renegade TV access for 1 year, and more. Over $4,600 in value, and we're just getting started, baby. Don't miss it. Visit cbknetwork.com and join the movement today. And I know this is probably prying, but that's what I do here, man. Like, the whole point is
that's okay. Yeah, you're good. You don't need to apologize for it.
Yeah. So a lot of men have a tough time with the idea of therapy and counseling. I don't know if you went there of your own accord or, you were dragged in there, but what was that experience like for you? And would you recommend that to somebody else?
Without a question, I recommend it. And to me, the way I communicate it to my kids, and maybe this will help your listeners, is most men did some sports growing up, right? Maybe not a ton, maybe they're not diehard, but they knew sports. We never think it's weird to have a baseball coach or a football coach or to have even a strength and conditioning coach.
Right.
Why wouldn't we have a brain coach? Right. And that's the way I look at it. That's the way I look at it with my kids is this is, a massively complex organism that, we're not handed an instruction manual. Why wouldn't we have a coach? We have a coach in every other part of our life. We have fitness coaches and nutrition coaches and finance coaches. We don't feel shame asking for help there. We actually usually see it as a point of pride. Look who my coach is. He's got championships, right? Mm. So I saw it as, now I'll tell you, the very first time I reached out to a therapist, I had a really hard time. Not because I was ashamed, but because I hadn't faced my demons. So the very first time when you're going to an actual therapist, not just like a coach, you have to fill out an intake form, and it asks all these questions, basically asking where your mental health is currently. Just answering those questions was traumatic because I didn't realize how bad of shape I was in. It's kind of like the first day you go to a gym and you work with a personal trainer and you get your butt absolutely handed to you, and then you're about to die, and he's like, that was our warm-up. Right? It was like going through the warm-up. I was already exhausted.
Yeah.
And I remember the very first therapist I ever met with, they were like, so how long have you been experiencing these symptoms of depression? And I felt assaulted. I was like, what do you mean I'm depressed? I didn't know I'm depressed. What do you mean symptoms of depression? I just answered your questions.
Right.
I was that unaware of just how bad I was doing. And so, yeah, I would just say to anyone who, if you don't have a coach, and it's the same thing I tell people with any other coach. It doesn't mean you have to have a weekly coach. Just meet with somebody as necessary, once a quarter, as needed. But
and we're not talking about at the bar with your buddy, right?
So there's a difference between your support network and like your buddies, and you need a vent. That's not like, they can listen to you and you'll often feel better just venting, but you need a professional. Like everyone needs a professional. And that's the same thing. You can golf with your buddy and he can tell you how to swing. It's different than going to an actual pro.
That's good stuff, man. I mean, that is the number one thing, right? Men, we go through all these different things, and it's like when something happens, now we start realizing just how jacked up we really have been and for how long we may have been jacked up, when maybe just a coach or a therapist could have helped tweak that or nip it in the bud early on. I'm glad you were able to do that. And thank you for sharing that too, by the way.
Yeah, of course. It took me a few tries, man. And you have to also, just like a coach, if you got to work to find someone that works for you, right? Because the first person you meet with might not resonate, might not connect. So it's okay. Try someone else.
And by the way, by that, you don't mean that agrees with you, right?
No. You need someone that challenges you and pushes you. But if you're not in rapport, if you're not connecting with the person, it's going to be hard to receive their advice.
Yeah. I had a hard time with that at first. It's like, no, I don't like this person. They don't agree with me. I was looking for somebody that, would say, yeah, you're right, AJ.
Just told you were right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, like I said, I appreciate you sharing that stuff. And I want to wrap up with this because I really appreciate the time that you spent with us here. When you started talking about the divorce stuff and you said, hey, the sooner you recognize it, the sooner you can get onto the good stuff, right? You're now in the good stuff. Talk to me about if you can remember a specific pivotal moment where you started to feel that trajectory going back up the way that you wanted it to go. Not that you're there yet, right?
Yeah, no, I hear you.
You shared a lot of things that you're looking to do in the future, but where you really said, okay, this is a good path for me moving forward.
Yeah, that's a really good question and thought process. I think there's glimpses of it at different times. And I think the hard thing is when you're going through a hard time, it doesn't always come as fast as we need it to or we want it to. And so for me, it took a lot longer than I thought. So there was the pre-divorce stuff was really hard. Then the divorce starting was hard. But then there was this season about 6 months, actually almost a year after it started, where it was actually the worst. I was probably the most distant from my kids that I had been. I'd put on a bunch of weight, and I had to move from like the first rental that I'd lived in after having moved out of our family home into another one. And I was just alone. Like my kids didn't come help. Like anyone in my community that I felt had been our friends I felt like they'd aligned with someone else. And so I was just super alone. I mean, I was moving fridges on my back by myself to move from one house to the other because I just was doing it on my own. And so that was like probably the absolute lowest. And it happened a year after everything. So by this point, I'm expecting I'm doing better. I should be feeling better by now. But I realized I felt all bad that nobody came, but I'm like, did I actually explicitly ask people or did I hint? How was my communication there? Right. And did I ask my support network or did I just hope people would come? So one, I learned I have to own my communication, and I'm getting to the answer of your question. So once I got into this new spot and I started kind of taking care of my health and started feeling a little better, I don't remember how it happened, but I remember one day just realizing that things were moving in a better direction. And it was probably having a series of a couple of good conversations with my kids, a couple of good moments that felt like we were reconnecting. And I remember, I can actually remember it now that we're talking about it. I took my kids out last Christmas for like a night out down in LA. We went like ice skating and saw a show and went to dinner. And it was the first time that one of my kids asked me how I was doing. This particular kid, and I used to be super close and we used to talk a lot more, but the conversations just were never, how are you? What are you doing right now? What's going on? And I remember that moment being like a turning point for me. Like, okay, this is going to be okay. We're going to get through this. They still care. And we had a great night. And I feel like the wins have been stacking since then.
God, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. Because none of the other stuff you talked about, the burn media, you know, that doesn't matter if you don't have what you're talking about now with your family and the people that are closest to you.
You can build businesses. You can come up with a new business idea, launch it tomorrow, right? But your family relationships and the people you care about, you can't just rebuild and you can't just get a whole new batch, right?
Yeah.
Or at least I'm not interested in that. So, yeah, I care a lot about the people in my life. So that's the most important thing.
Good for you, man. Good for you. So somebody is listening to this right now saying, damn, Tyler, me too, right? For anybody who's in this phase where they're down, doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't have to be relationship. It could be career, you know, health, whatever. If you could give one piece of advice to anybody that's struggling right now, that's looking for their comeback, from Tyler Jorgenson's mouth, what is that?
Gratitude. Without a question, start practicing gratitude. Even in our darkest moments, there are things that we have to be grateful for. And if you're in the woo-woo energy side of things, gratitude is a high vibration state. It elevates everything else. If you're not that kind of person, if you're spiritual, giving thanks is what we're told to do in the scriptures. If you're just a secular person, making a list of good things is just a good thing to do, and it generally brings more good things towards you. And so what I've been doing recently is writing out the things I'm grateful for currently, and then I turn the page and I write future gratitudes. So I write the things I want to experience as if they've already happened. So I'm thankful for 7 figures in my savings account. I'm thankful for 6 figures in my checking. I'm thankful for this. And I write these things as if they've already happened. And so that's my current exercise that I'm doing. And I just encourage anyone to focus on gratitude.
And that's not hokey, by the way. I remember the first time I did something like that, I was like, but the manifestation is real.
I'm just a little bit woo-woo, right? I'm not like super weird energy levels kind of people, but I absolutely believe in energy and that if we are radiating good things come to us.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, man. Well, I'm glad we got a chance to do this, man. I really appreciate you spending some time with us here today. Do this before we get out of here. How can people connect with you? So obviously they're going to be able to connect with you inside of the app, but how can they catch you on socials or wherever? Because, you've got some business opportunities to work with people that are in the entrepreneurial space. So talk to us.
Probably the easiest place to go is just bizninjaradio.com. From there, you can see all my episodes, connect to our socials, all that kind of stuff. I'm pretty easy to find if you just search Tyler Jorgenson. I'm not the only one, but I'm, I own the domain and you can find me. So I'm pretty easy to find. And especially if you do Tyler Jorgenson Biz Ninja, you can find all my socials, anything.
All right, guys, there you have it. And I'll get this in the show notes for you as well so you can connect with Tyler. Tyler, man, again, I appreciate your time. And come back to the show anytime, please. I really would love to have you back here. And for all the kings out there, we really appreciate you. Until the next episode, remember this: your setbacks do not define you, but your comeback will. Till next time, peace. That does it for another episode of the Comeback Kings podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe, leave us a review, and come join the after party inside the app at cbknetwork.com. And remember, your past doesn't define you. Your comeback will.